Now, as reported by journalist Neil Wallace in this week's Farmers Weekly, a significant amount of fruit will fall to the ground and be left to rot if not picked during harvest season. I did mention cherries, but Central Otago, my hometown of Cromwell, is home to a variety of incredible stone fruit. And the Mayor of the Central Otago District Council, Tim Cadogan, joins us now. Tim, this is getting to a very dire situation. It feels like banging on in the door of an empty room.
Yeah, it does quite a bit, Sarah. I'm running out of ideas. I think everybody's on tenterhooks. And the problem, there's a multitude of problems here, but one of the problems we have is we don't know exactly when the cherries are going to be ready. And you're quite right to talk about the other crops. Cherries are where we hit the peak of the people that are needed. But there's really some desperate situations arriving even in the apple industry now. Grapes looking further forward. It covers quite a long period of time.
So for those not familiar, cherries really is that first sort of pre-Christmas right through until grapes in April, and around that January time we have our beautiful bigger stone fruits like apricots, nectarines, etc. Now, Tim, you've said you've actually made a commitment to spend your Christmas holidays working in a cherry pack house. How serious are you about this?
Oh, I'm deadly serious because at the moment there's no cavalry riding in. So if Central Otago wants to save itself, and it's our economy first, followed by New Zealand second, we're going to have to do it ourselves. So I'm saying to my people in Central, hey, we need to get out there. We need to either work for ourselves. You might not need the money yourself, or you might be on holiday and you want to have a break. But if you want that cafe that you like or that shop that you like to shop at to stay open, we've got to get this off. It's 20% of our economy. So no use talking about it. I've got to get myself out there and do it.
Hey, so I'm thinking of the likes of the families of, around Cromwell. It's absolutely escaped me. But they suffered from the times and relocated when they lost their orchards through the dams. And how is significant is this in terms of the challenges that they've had from climatic, weather, trade, and all of those challenges along the way to today's challenge?
I'm a guy whose career depends on the public mood every 3 years, and yet I say I wouldn't have the courage to be a farmer or a fruit grower or anything, because it can go, there's so many different ways that you get attacked, and this is just another crisis that's facing these folk, and they've worked hard to try to find solutions. There's been some innovative solutions. We've tried job fairs in Queenstown, largely assisted by my brother, the Mayor of Clutha District, and some government funding he got alongside near Bolter, Queenstown. We've had one operation that has said they've done a deal with a camper van company. So for accommodation, here's your camper van, really cheap rates. And when you're not working, you can take the camper van up and go swim in the lake or go on a wine tour or whatever, as long as you've got a sober driver. So every thought's been put towards this, and we're getting pretty run out of ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Ross has got a question. What skill sets are needed to help the picking? If the requirements are not difficult, let's go help locally. It's not that physical, is it?
Look, I haven't done it myself, but my understanding is if you're doing apples, an apple picker over a full season will climb 25 vertical kilometres up those ladders carrying a lot of weight. So that's very physical. But when it comes to the cherries, people like myself, as Stu Duncan, who I think is a regular viewer of your show, said at one of my council meetings today, if I go picking, only the low-hanging fruit will get picked. It's taller than me. But for me, I'm in my mid-50s. I'm probably going to be more use in the pack house and let some young people or fitter people out up the ladders. I don't know. I'll do what the boss tells me. But there is a variety of work. We concentrate, I think, in our own minds, if we're not in the industry, on the picking. But there's a lot of ancillary work, even bird scaring, things like that. But the pack house takes a lot of people too.
Yeah, absolutely. The Jacksons, my sincere apologies for forgetting, because I did work many summers for them, Mark and Kevin Jackson, and I've done both, picking cherries, and I'll tell you what, in the pack house, I'm just going to warn you, and I want you to let me know if this happens to you. You will have dreams of cherries going across your eyes like this.
I got myself through university by working in the shearing sheds, and I used to dream of sheep. It did my head in. I couldn't get away from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And hey, look, how many people are paying for spray tans and gym memberships? What a great way to get that at the same time. I can't do the cherry season, but I'd like to commit to coming down and also doing some apricots as well, because it doesn't hurt. And even if it's a couple of days, it makes a real difference. But what about some of these opportunities that I'm seeing online? I mean, there's a lot of untapped agricultural opportunities that people have said that overlooked in the past, the ex-prisoners is an example. And what sort of conversations are you having with MB to really understand this? Because, I mean, this is their fault, and also Ministry for Social Development.
I think it's rough to say it's anybody's fault. What we've got is a situation where the taps of the Nivan workers, who are just fantastic workers and such a great part of our community, there's nowhere near as many of them in the country as we would normally expect, and the overseas workers. So what's happened is that we've had a system that worked. It worked for everybody, and with COVID, with so many other industries as well, it's just hit like a hammer, and so we've suddenly got this problem. MB is doing some good work. Look, I would love to see a couple of 4, 5, 10 plane loads of Nivans landing at Queenstown Airport at New Year's. It's almost certainly not going to happen. But I'm not here to blame anybody. We've just got to find solutions.
So what is the size of the hole, the damage, in terms of numbers required?
Numbers between 4,000 and 5,000 people. And, yeah, at the real peak. And that's what you've got to keep in mind is my whole district is 22,000 people. So it's not like we've got a big city right next door where we can just grab people and move them in. But we don't know what's going to turn up, and that's part of the problem, is that the cavalry could be just over the horizon. We've done a lot of, when I say we, the industry has done a lot of advertising with the Motor Home Association of New Zealand, because we've got the grey nomads cruising around, and they're always eager to help, and they've got their own accommodation and come in and make some, what they used to call it, pin money, We've just got to try to do absolutely everything we can. I've always said with this one, there's going to be a dozen solutions, and we've got to pick up every single one of them. There's not going to be one Band-Aid that's going to fix the whole thing.
The Queenstown Job Expo was not just about horticulture. It was a broader discussion around it, as particularly in pairing up of skill sets has been a real big issue. I'd love to know the learnings that you got from that. Was it an extreme disappointment, or was there some silver linings out of it?
When we did this, at the very start of the day, my brother Brian, who's the mayor of the Clutha district, said, if we get one person a job, then today will have been a success. One person who's had their ass kicked through COVID or whatever reason, and we get them a job, then that's a win.
It's a lot of government funding for one person to be employed, though.
And there were certainly greater achievements than that, but it was disappointing. Particularly the number of New Zealanders who turned up. And there may be a multitude of reasons for it. It may be that they knew that, hey, once the time comes, I'm just going to climb in my car and drive down to Cromwell and I'll be sorted. There'll be a job there. I don't need to come to a jobs fair in October. I hope that's the case and that they will turn up. But also, even in the time period from when the job opportunities was planned to when it happened, the Queenstown economy showed far greater resilience than was expected. So the vast numbers of unemployed that were expected to happen, touch wood, haven't really happened yet. So that is the biggest metropolis in inland Otago. You can call it a metropolis, biggest labour pool. And it's still ticking over all right. So lessons learnt, we just keep trying.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just going to sneak on a wee opportunist as I am here. Most regional councils, mayors and CEOs of regional councils are having a lot of fun with this freshwater policy and implementation. How is the Central Otago District Council working through the devil in the detail as it's being described?
And look, I think the aspirations are entirely correct. We're not going to have any arguments with that. We have a timeline which is difficult. And I think the biggest factor in all of this, I'm a townie, okay? I've lived in small town New Zealand all my life, but I've never been a farmer, but I've been, next door to, I've worked really hard at getting an understanding of what this means essentially on one river, on the Manyahitakia. I've worked really hard in the 4 years I've been mayor of getting an understanding. If I had to sit an exam tomorrow, it'd probably be like my law degree, it'd be a C, maybe a C minus. It's hard stuff to learn. And so the communication through to the towns, and I'll tell you a really big one. the Manihitakia occasionally peaks off for E. coli, right? So when that happens, the townies go, oh, the bloody cowcockies up the stream, you know? We keep saying to the ORC, and I say again here, when you get one of those things trigger off, do a DNA test on it, because I'm not entirely sure it's cows. It might be Ormaco sewage treatment plant. Don't know, because we're doing work on it. So there's a lot of blame game going on here, and in so much detail, and it's so hard to get across to the people in the towns that we need to do things right. And most farmers that I talk to want to do things right, absolutely. But some of the directions that are being given are fairly one size fits all. I'm in Wellington, and God knows when you're in Wellington, you know Wellington knows best. But it doesn't. One size doesn't fit all. You can't apply rules to Southland or the West Coast, goodness help us, that are going to work in central Otago, because you basically got a rainforest climate that's 150 kilometres away from a Mediterranean climate. How on earth are you going to make rules that fit for all? And on the flip side of what I would say is that there is still the odd rural person out there who thinks, no, bugger it, the good old days are the ways that they were and everything was all right and it'll be fine. Those attitudes have to be challenged and have to go as well. We've got to find a way through this together. But as I say again, I could be unemployed in just under 2 years. That's the world that every mayor lives in. I still couldn't take the gambles and risks and fighting against the winds that the people of the country take. I haven't got the balls for it.
So implementation of the policy is going well then, Tim, by the sounds of it. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate your honesty, and I know a lot of our viewers and listeners will as well, because it is certainly something that we continue to follow here on Serious Country. Before you go, we are going to celebrate fruit desserts tonight, though, because what is your favourite?
Right. This is really easy. I do the best baked apple in the world, and you can ask any member of my family, and half of them would say I do, and the other half would disagree. But I just love a big Granny Smith or something like that. You just take the top bit of it, absolutely ram it full of goodness in the form of butter, brown sugar, and sultanas, some cloves and cinnamon. Pack it in. Put far too much in so that when it sits in the oven, that turns to toffee. And look, it's just a bit of custard. Yeah. It's about 5,000 calories a dose, but hey, you want to live forever.
That sounds amazing, and it got me thinking about one of my favourite is a Pinot Noir soaked poached pear with a wee side of blue cheese.
Oh, mate. Now you're talking.
Don't you live, I want to say we, but I'm not living there anymore, in the best food basket in New Zealand, Central Otago?
Absolutely we do.
And that is the Mayor Tim Cadogan from Central Otago on the topic of the labour shortage and the fruit this season potentially rotting on the ground.
This is Sarah's Country.